Here, we'll look at this.
Rafah, more broken bodies, more blood in the sand of the now forever displaced. According to local emergency services, at least 21 people were killed, 64 injured. At the end of this footage, a child on his knees rocking back and forth over the body of a woman. A cluster of tents were hit close to a field hospital. Gaza's health ministry said 17 of the dead were women and children. The IDF said they were not responsible for this strike.
So how did it happen, bro? By the way, this is not yesterday. This is literally recent. Like, this isn't the previous one. Okay, this isn't the one that they're lying about currently.
Ahmed Nasir, originally from Gaza City, had to collect the bodies of his extended family.
The fire one was the night before this one. This was in the morning, yeah.
Strike was just there. We ran towards it to see what happened, and the second strike happened here next to us. We came and found about 6 or 7 of my relatives.
The thing is, let's say you are a rabid, brain-broken, psychopathic ultra-Zionist, okay? And you want to believe in your heart of hearts that Hamas is responsible. They're killing their own people, right? To get the world to pay attention. Because, like, that's kind of what Israel tries to claim. Or they're trying to blow up Israel, but then they fail and they blow up their own people. Like, you have to remember something. If they're trying to fucking... Like, there is no motivation for Hamas to kill the Gazan population. Okay? 36,000 have been killed so far. Nobody gives a shit. Okay? An additional 17 is not going to fucking move the needle for many. Okay? That's it.
Some of my cousins, their husbands and children. People are settled here and are safe. They have nothing to do with anything. These are displaced people, my relatives, all of them are my cousins.
This is Al-Mawasi. It's just a few miles west of Tal al-Sultan, where at least 45 people were killed on Sunday night. The UN Security Council held an emergency closed-door session this afternoon to discuss the incident. The Rafah offensive is now in its 3rd week. What happened here near a designated humanitarian zone has turned international unease into outrage. The shape of the Rafah offensive was as close as the international community had to a red line.
On Sunday night, we eliminated senior Hamas terrorists in a targeted strike.
The IDF said today that they'd killed 2 senior Hamas operatives, went on to imply that the initial strike had ignited weapons being stored in the vicinity.
Following this strike, a large fire ignited for reasons that are still being investigated. Our munition alone could not have ignited a fire of this size. I want to repeat it. Our munition alone could not have ignited a fire of this size.
The IDF released this video today as part of their Rafah operation. Eyewitnesses have seen tanks in the center of the city. A senior aid worker we spoke to described an intense military operation, combined with panic about where now constitutes a safe place to escape to.
People, they don't know where to move exactly. On the ground there are some advancement for the ground troops towards some new locations within Tal al-Sultan area. People actually, they don't know where to go, they don't know what to do. They don't know if it's safe to move within the humanitarian area or not.
The International Court of Justice called for a halt to the Rafah offensive last week. 3 countries officially recognized a Palestinian state today. The ICC awaits its request for arrest warrants. And this young man takes one last look, then zips up another body bag.
Well, a short time ago, I spoke to William Schomburg, head of the International Committee of the Red Cross delegation in Gaza, and he's currently...
How do you convince someone who believes of an accidental fire which kills so many people in Gaza? What do you mean accidental? They bombed it. Like, I don't know. Like, what do you mean accidental fire? Like, they lobbed missiles at it. The fuck? Show them the goddamn videos. It's not like they're denying that they blew it up. I know it was not accidental. The spokesman on TV. Yeah, they lie all the time. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, it's just 36,000. All accidents, all minor accidents over and over again. It only becomes an accident when you pay attention to it, though, when your parents pay attention to it, though, which is odd. Yeah, we're going to be doing the Creators for Palestine live stream Thursday. Yeah, accidental famine, accidental fucking decapitation of children, accidental murder of 7 aid workers, 200 prior as well, but 7 World Central Christian Aid workers, accidental flower massacre, accidental every hospital blew up, sorry.
Currently dealing with people at the ICRC field hospital in Rafah, and because of the communication difficulties, we could only reach him on the phone. I should warn you, there is flash photography in the images we've used over it.
There aren't really words to describe how devastating the picture is.
By the way, this is the other thing. You have Doctors Without Borders and numerous other international organizations working on the ground and in the hospitals. And the direct involvement, like the people who are directly involved in like trying to save the Palestinian population, every single day, they're like, these are horrors beyond human comprehension. In all of my years of working in active war zones and working through conflict and working through famine, I've never seen such atrocities in display. These aren't like random doctors, okay? Half of these guys have been around. They've gone to Iraq. They've gone to Afghanistan. They've seen what America has done to a native population in its occupation. And they keep repeating it over and over again. They're like, we have never seen this level of violence. We have never seen, this is the worst humanity has ever been throughout history.
Tonight in Rafah, we today have had, again, a serious incident that has led to an influx of patients into the Red Cross Field Hospital here in Rafah.
They have private practices in strip malls when they ain't doing this? Wait, what do you mean? No, these guys aren't like fucking... Doctors see a lot of horrifying shit, okay? Especially when they're working in ER and whatnot. But that's not what we're talking about here. These guys are actively going to war zones regularly. Definitely not in history, but it's bad. Yeah, of course, definitely not across the board throughout history. I'm saying throughout contemporary history, from their own personal experience, actively going and working in fucking war zones and shit. Like dudes who have been to Afghanistan, combat medics, dudes who have actually worked with Doctors Without Borders in Afghanistan and Iraq, going to Gaza and saying, I have never seen this level of fucking bloodshed. But the fog of war could render them unreliable. Yeah, dude, the fog of war caused you to think that this is a good debate, ad break debate, okay? It must be. Yeah, it must be the fog of war that's causing you to think that that's a good segue, because it's not, okay? Especially after I got caught with my dick out in the wind earlier. Trying to get my family to give a shit about this is insane. My dad is the only one in my family who knows I was arrested at my college encampment for this, and he knows I care about it. Can't get a single other family member to give a shit about it without directly inserting myself through. A lot of liberals are like this. White people don't give a shit about Arabs. Yes. So here's a valid avenue of attack for those of you, okay? keep this in your fucking pocket. If your family members don't give a shit about the death and destruction of so many children and so many babies and women and the elderly, whatever, right? They don't care. You can't get them to care about it. Use a different avenue of attack. Tell them that these are American weapons. Tell them that these are our tax dollars being spent to murder children rather than fucking help people who are on the streets. Our veterans, for example. It was Memorial Day weekend, just, it was Memorial Day yesterday. What are we doing for their memory? An unimaginable percentage, I think it's like 17% of all homeless people are veterans, okay? That's crazy. It's crazy. What are we doing about that? Well, we're too busy fucking using all of our tax dollars in funding and facilitating this fucking ethnic cleansing campaign, okay? 22 veterans a day are killing themselves. Every single dollar spent on bombs that Israel is gleefully using on a civilian population that it is trapped inside of an open-air prison could have been spent, every single dollar that went to that bomb could have been spent on the roads, could have been spent on the infrastructure, could have been spent to harden our infrastructure against climate change, could have been spent on whatever, insert whatever cause your fucking dumb fuck parents care about, okay? Combating crime, combating poverty at the heart of crime, combating homelessness, fixing the housing market, building new homes. Because guess what? America has a shit ton of issues. What won't work usually is, what if that was you? Because Americans will never be on the receiving end of this kind of violence. So we cannot conceptualize it. Okay? The only time we've seen this kind of violence is when we are doing it to other people that look like them. So for us, it's like unimaginable, unheard of. No, of course, you can't understand this. This only is seen through television, where the American government is doing it to people that quote unquote deserved it. Okay? It's impossible for many to even remotely consider this happening to them. So you have to remember that, and then, figure out what they do care about and go, here's where the money is going. Did you know that since the year 2000, the number of veterans killing themselves is 5 to 10x the amount the American soldiers killed in combat? Yeah. It's not shocking. The 22 a day number is actually no longer 22 a day. It's 17 a day, by the way. Before somebody fucking clips that and goes, Hasan, you're lying. Oh, how brilliant. How wonderful. Look at the progress we made. Only 17 veterans killed themselves every day. Not 22, guys. We did it.
We're talking about burns, terrible shrapnel wounds, children, women, all of whom have been affected by the ongoing hostilities. At the same time, there's an overwhelming sense of fear and panic as the operations in Rafah intensify, and there have been yet further displacements. Like, I can look out now, see hordes of people scraping together everything they have and trying to get out of here, whether it's on foot, donkey, or car.
Are you going to...
What do we do about the massive population who doesn't give a fuck and is gleeful at this murder because they think they'll get raptured? Yeah, you can't. Dude, what? You are not a social worker talking to someone engaging in crisis counseling, okay? You cannot talk to your schizophrenic parents if they're evangelical Protestants who believe that, like, the rapture is coming. I'm sorry. Put them in a fucking re-education camp. Yeah, 48 hours later, not a single mainstream media outlet has covered Israeli soldiers mass burning civilian homes in Rafah with immense satisfaction and joy. Imagine those were Hamas militants posing for such pics at Israelis' kibbutzim. How many Arab savagery headlines would there be? Yep. Always. Isn't that a good thing with the veterans? No, what the fuck is wrong with you? I want to bait y'all. Good bait, man. No, I don't think 22 veterans should fucking kill themselves a day. The fuck? Good bait, dude. I'm not one of the, all American troops need to be actively murdered type leftists, if that's what you think this was. Not that many of them anyway.
To be able to stay there?
We are committed to meeting the humanitarian needs of civilians in Gaza, which have reached unprecedented levels. We have a field hospital, like I mentioned. We have an office here, and we're doing everything that we can to support civilian needs, and we will stay here and continue with our work.
Can you give me any sense of the scale of the hospital and how many patients you're dealing with?
The other night, following the airstrike on the Kuwaiti Peace IDP camp, we received, I believe, 32 patients, heavily wounded individuals. We conducted amputations, dealt with several very difficult burns cases. We also have an outpatient department where we have a constant flow of civilians coming in, those who have been weapon wounded, but also just families who are looking for some health care in a situation where there are almost no functioning hospitals.
And what happens to patients who have such drastic surgery, such as amputations, after you've dealt with them? Where can they go?
We try and follow up with them, but of course, we have other patients that we need to tend to. For the time being, they will stay within the hospital, and then after that, we will see with the families what options that they have, and they will most likely return back to different camps or homes that they've been living in following the displacement of the majority of the population for several months now.
And how heavy is the Israeli bombing at the moment, the airstrikes? Can you give me a sense of their regularity?
Pretty constant. I would say that often they are quite far away from where we are, but let's say at least on a daily basis, several times we've heard many loud explosions. Of course, difficult to fully understand exactly what's the cause of them or where they come from.
William Schomburg, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Yeah, for the record, I don't engage in like veteran worship or anything like that. That's not what I do. I think it's pretty crazy to say that I, of all people, engage in veteran worship, considering that, like, one of my most famous quotes is directly talking about the eye hole. So, no, I don't do that at all. I think it's, veterans can get this fucking smoke too. I don't think it's a protected category by my standards, at least. Now, having said that, I mean, Brian Mass too. But having said that, that doesn't mean that, like, random dumb fucks who wanted to fucking get a Camaro or wanted to escape poverty or thought that this was a good way to get some semblance of upward social mobility by getting a fucking college education paid, then now have crippling PTSD, deserve it and should kill themselves. I don't think that. Especially if they no longer are staunch defenders of American empire. There are plenty of fucking radicalized vets who have seen firsthand the atrocities, who now atone for it every day, who have to live with that scar every day and have to atone for it every day. Many of them are in this community as well.
And transparent investigation into what happened, something which the UK Foreign Secretary Lord Cameron has also called for.
I think that what happened in Rafah overnight really did look very, very concerning, very worrying, and so we're asking for that to be investigated rapidly. The Israelis have already said it was a tragic mistake, but we want to see that properly investigated. Look, what I want to see is a stop in the fighting. We want a pause, which has been offered by the Israelis, a hostage deal to Hamas that would let prisoners out of Israeli jails, and have that pause. Because what we need is to get the hostages out, get the aid in, and have that stop in the fighting, which we can then turn into a permanent, sustainable ceasefire. That's what I want to see happen.
So that's the Foreign Secretary, Lord Cameron. Well, a little earlier, I spoke to our Middle East correspondent in Jerusalem, Hugo Bachega, who told me this is the first detailed account we've had from the Israeli military about their version of events on Sunday.
The Israeli authorities are under, a lot of pressure, international pressure, after this attack. So today we heard from Daniel Hagari, a spokesman for the Israeli military, and I think the message here in this briefing was very clear. We just heard from him saying that the Israeli attack alone could not have ignited this fire. And he's saying now that one of the possibilities being explored is that weapons being stored, near the target of this attack might have caused this fire. There was no evidence of that. He said that images posted on social media from the aftermath of the attack are being analyzed by the Israeli military, and those images, according to him, appear to show secondary explosions that he said might have been triggered by...
You're not doing your job. You're not doing your job. Do your fucking job. Your job isn't to go, this is what Israel said. Your job is to go, if you're going to say this is what Israel said, your job is to say, they have on countless instances they have this outlet, Channel 4 and the BBC, has on countless occasions found evidence that directly contradicts what the Israeli government's immediate sentiments were. Okay, it's immediate facts after a bombing campaign. It's ridiculous. You can't just say this is what the Israeli government says and just like leave it at that. You also then have to follow up with your own fucking investigation.
By those weapons that were being stored in this site near this compound that was targeted. Some other lines from this briefing again.
This isn't Channel 4, this is BBC. They're fucking awful. Channel 4 is great.
He dismissed reports saying that this attack happened in an area that had been designated as a humanitarian zone by the Israeli military. He said the target was almost 2 kilometers away from this humanitarian zone.
Bro, you're not doing it. You're not doing it. See, he's not doing he's not doing journalism. He's not. He's just repeating what the Israeli government is saying. It is newsworthy when you recognize that Israel has time and time again directly lied. Or the newsworthy aspect of this would be there is no evidence to substantiate these claims. Just anything. Literally anything. You're not the PR department for Israel. What the fuck is going on? This is disgusting.
Zone. And he also said that the target here was located 180 meters away from those tents. So we know that after this airstrike, there was this huge blaze. At least 45 people were killed as a result of this attack, including many women and children. And again, a lot of international condemnation and human rights organizations saying that despite what the Israeli authorities have been saying, they know that there is, a large risk that, large numbers of people could be killed as a result.
That's crazy. He doesn't even fucking directly contradict Israel's statement and simply says the pussies over at the human rights organization say a large number of civilians can be killed. It's like, yeah, dude, we know that. They have been killed. Over and over again. You already said that in the beginning of the fucking reporting when you said 45 people died. No counter. Notice how there's no counter, no additional information about Israel's tendency to lie about these sorts of things, or even the fact that this is completely unsubstantiated. They did not offer evidence. They showed you a couple satellite shots and you took what they said for fucking granted. I'm losing my mind.
Result of these attacks because of the large number of Palestinians.
Hassan Rabbani is non-resident fellow at the Centre for Conflict and Humanitarian Studies, and he's also co-editor of Jadalia. It's an online publication covering the Middle East. He's joining us live now from Montreal. Thank you very much indeed for being with us. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu describing this as a tragic accident, saying a grave mistake took place. Is this an appropriate response, do you think?
No, of course not. And I would point out that in contrast to previous such attacks, where Israel either celebrates them or doesn't even bother giving an excuse for its actions, now it has also claimed that it is launching an independent investigation. So quite clearly, what's called the diplomatic tsunami, the recent ruling by the International Court of Justice, the ICC applications for arrest warrants and so on, are gradually beginning to have an effect. At the same time, when we look at the broader international situation, what we've learned is that US President Joe Biden's red line is actually a river of Palestinian blood, and that senior US officials are quite happy to swim in it. As far as the Europeans are concerned, we've seen quite extensive condemnation of this attack and denunciation of this attack. But 8 months into this brutal genocidal campaign, I think simply making statements becomes entirely meaningless when this is not paired with concrete actions to bring such acts, which are taking place on an almost daily basis, to a definitive end.
With the increase in diplomatic pressure, with the pressure coming from the recent rulings from the International Court of Justice, plus, of course, from the domestic pressure that the Prime Minister is facing as well, do you think that all we're going to see is just a change in his language? Is it going to have any impact at all on the way that Israel is carrying out its military operation in Gaza?
At this rate, absolutely not. And I think one objective of this attack was to demonstrate that the U.S. actually does not have a red line. And bear in mind, according to the available reports, Israel used exactly those bombs, the 2,000-pound bombs, in its attack on Tel Sultan yesterday. These are the same bombs that Biden had claimed he was suspending the delivery of to Israel. So this is basically a message, essentially raising a middle finger to the ICC, to the ICJ, to the international community, and making the claim, Washington has our back.
No, I don't think it was 2,000-pound bombs. That part, I don't know if it's correct or not. Not that it matters, but I don't think that was what, I don't think that's what they were using. I think they were using smaller munitions. That doesn't mean that it's okay. It's still a bomb regardless.
We really don't care about anything else.
In terms of the linguistic gymnastics that we've seen over the last several months.
It was an American bomb, though. That part is definitely true.
With regard, but particularly in the last couple of months with regard to the operations that are going on in Rafah, do you think that we are going to see a continuation of the avoidance of words like a major operation, a large-scale operation, that may well be what we're seeing on the ground, but the frames of reference, if you like, are going to be much milder?
I think so. We've seen the constant shifting of the goalposts. I would also make another point. At various stages, we have seen senior U.S. officials, President Biden, Secretary of State Antony Blinken, and others make statements that appear to be critical of Israel or laying down boundaries regarding what Israel can and cannot do. I don't think we should look at those in terms of reflecting any change in U.S. policy. What they actually are attempts to respond to growing domestic public opposition to growing global criticism of the US's unconditional support of Israel, and in a sense to divert, to change the subject, to give the appearance that something is changing in Washington. But in effect, nothing happens, and these statements are intended purely for public consumption to mask the continuation of the precisely same policies with respect to Israel's genocidal onslaught in the Gaza Strip.
There are cautious talks going on with regard to the possibility of moving towards another set of potential ceasefire negotiations. Do you think, given the pressures that you've been discussing, there might be some pressure on Israel to move forward, to try to find some sort of way of finding some sort of common ground with Hamas, with the negotiators, albeit that they might not want to make that public?
Well, I would first look at what happens in the United Nations Security Council this week. The Algerians are apparently preparing to submit another draft resolution calling for a ceasefire. If, as widely expected, the U.S. either manages to water it down to the point of making it meaningless, or if it fails to do that and once again casts its veto, that would be a very clear message to Israel, to Netanyahu, that they can...
Oh, by the way, I forgot to run the 3-minute ad break. I'm going to do it right now. Sorry. I caught the debate, but then I didn't run it, I think.
Continue, and that these ceasefire discussions are really no more than a fig leaf for Israel's ability to continue.
Yes, this is Moin Rabbani. He was on the Lex Fridman debate. He's brilliant. I like him a lot. He's great.
Continue with its campaign in the Gaza Strip. So we have to look, I think, not only at the negotiations themselves, but at the broader context in which they're being conducted.
Moin Rabbani, we appreciate you being with us on Al Jazeera, so thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you.